After being kicked out of the Guan family, Guan Xiuxiu transformed into a true heiress with a net worth of hundreds of billions. The Guan family regretted it and, relying on the grace of raising her, demanded half of the Jiang family's fortune as repayment. Guan Xiuxiu sneered and, with a truth talisman, directly exposed the Guan family's ugly faces. When a scumbag wanted to come back and pester her, Guan Xiuxiu raised her hand and made him see his ancestors every night. Her cousins looked down on her and thought she was embarrassing. As a result, the head of the Song family came to her door. "As long as Master Jiang is willing to save my daughter, name your price." The Su family, who had a long-standing feud with the Jiang family, shamelessly came to visit. In the past, this little brother was ignorant. "As long as Master Jiang is willing to help, CEO Jiang will be my brother from now on." Later, even her cousin, who was always defiant, became her follower. "This is my only sister. Whoever dares to scold her, I'll scold their whole family." The Jiang family only realized then that the pitiful girl they thought they knew was actually a true mystic arts big shot. Exorcising evil, drawing talismans, saving people, and also chasing after gold thighs. Guan Xiuxiu said, "I'm so busy." Chu the Beha took the initiative to share the pressure. Chapter 1. Go back to your biological parents. June, shortly after the end of the college entrance examination. Guan Xiuxiu went through the discharge procedures alone and returned home. As soon as she stepped into the gate of the Guan family's villa, a suitcase thudded and landed at her feet. A richly dressed beautiful woman stood at the entrance, looking down at her. Her eyes swept over the girl's delicate features and snow-white skin. A hint of jealousy flashed in her eyes, followed by undisguised disgust. "I've had your luggage packed. From today onwards, get out of this house and go back to your biological parents." Guan Xiuxiu didn't even look at the suitcase on the ground, her almond-shaped eyes coldly looking at Bai Shuqin, the woman she had called mother for 17 years. The commotion at the door attracted the attention of the people inside the house. Soon Guan's father and his 2 children also came out. Guan's father looked at the suitcase that had fallen at Guan Xiuxiu's feet, looked at his wife, and said with a hint of reproach, "Shuqin, what are you doing? Xiuxiu is, after all, the daughter we've raised for 18 years. She's just an ungrateful money-losing good." Bai Shuqin glared at Guan Xiuxiu. "I clearly told her to let Rue have the city image representative spot selected in the city this time, but she ignored my words. If I hadn't found out about the final list, I would still be kept in the dark. If she had any conscience, she shouldn't have taken her sister's things." Guan Rue, who was standing aside, heard Bai Shuqin's words. A trace of jealousy flashed in her eyes, but it was quickly hidden. Her face showed some grievance and sadness, but she said, "Mom, don't be like this. The opportunity to be a city image representative is rare. It's normal for sister not to want to give it up. Maybe I didn't do well enough, otherwise I wouldn't have been not selected. How are you inferior to her? What she has wasn't given to her by our Guan family." Bai Shuqin softly comforted her daughter. Guan Xiuxiu quietly watched the mother and daughter perform. She had seen such performances countless times since she was a child. At this moment, she not only felt no emotion, but even wanted to laugh a little. 4 days ago, she was hit by a car and flew more than 20 meters in order to save Guan Rue. Everyone thought she was dead. Bai Shuqin and the Guan family rushed to the scene. Their first reaction was not to check on her injuries, but to coax Guan Rue, who was crying from the shock of the car accident. Guan Xiuxiu was lying on the ground in a daze at the time, feeling only cold in her hands and feet, but what made her heart even colder was the conversation between Guan's father and Bai Shuqin. "The front of the car is smashed, she probably won't survive." "That's good. Her death means that she indeed blocked this great calamity in Ruerue's life, and it's not in vain that our family raised her for so many years." Guan Xiuxiu always knew that she was just a tool for the Guan family to raise to ward off misfortune for Guan Rue. When she was little, she didn't understand why Bai Shuqin would ask her to take care of Guan Rue around the clock every time she got sick, and every time under her care, Guan Rue would recover quickly, while she herself would get very sick afterwards. Later, she met her master and received her guidance, and then she learned that her and Guan Ruerue's birth dates belonged to the Qianquan match in yin-yang numerology. Guan is half, and she is the good half. The Guan family raised her by Guan Ruerwe's side, actually using her own luck to fill the misfortune on Guan Ruerwe's body. With each time she warded off misfortune, Guan Ruerwe's fate slowly improved, while she would slowly move towards decline and misfortune. If Guan Xiushu hadn't been prepared, perhaps she would have exhausted her luck and died in the car accident 4 days ago. It was also because of this car accident that her biological father accidentally found her. Are you done? Can I leave after you're done? Having heard this couple discuss her death indifferently, the last bit of expectation in Guan Xiushu's heart for the Guan family completely disappeared. She didn't feel the slightest bit of reluctance to leave the Guan family. Xiushu, don't blame your mother, it's true that you did something wrong. Guan's father came out at this time, his face as serious as ever. Now that you have found your biological parents, then you should go back with them. Guan Ruerue also spoke, her voice soft and timid. Sister, don't be angry with Mom. Mom is doing it all for me. As she spoke, she suddenly took out an envelope from the side and handed it to her, very considerately. This is for your travel expenses. I heard Dad say that Sister's biological parents live in those big mountains, and their family is very poor, and the internet is not well developed in those places, so it's better to bring some cash. Bai Shuqin snorted coldly from the side. Don't say we don't care about the many years of affection. This money is enough to spend a year in the mountains. Our family has been good enough to you, she said and sneered. Once you go back there, I doubt we'll have a chance to meet again. I hear there are plenty of old men in those mountains who can't find wives. You can just marry one when you get back. Anyway, your grades are mediocre, you definitely won't get into college. Guan Xiushu looked at Bai Shuqin's condescending yet malicious demeanor, giving her only a faint glance. Your forehead wrinkles are quite deep, a sign of too much scheming and accumulated sins. Instead of worrying about me, you might as well use these few $1,000s to buy a facial mask to fix it. She paused as she said this, adding as if on purpose, although it probably won't do much good. Guan Xiushu said this with a straight face, but it instantly turned Bai Shuqin's expression sharp, and she said angrily, "You little bitch, who gave you the nerve to talk to me like that?" As she spoke, she raised her hand to slap Guan Xiushu's face. The latter only watched her coldly, lightly sidestepping, causing Bai Shuqin's slap to miss completely. Bai Shuqin was incredulous. "You dare to dodge?" Seeing this, Guan Ruerue, who was standing nearby, hurried forward to pull Guan Xiushu back. "Sister, don't make Mom angry like this. If you speak nicely, Mom will forgive you." Sounded nice, but she was actually holding her so she couldn't dodge Bai Shuqin's slap anymore. Guan Xiushu raised her hand to push her away, but as her eyes swept over, her gaze paused. She saw the jade bracelet on Guan Ruerue's wrist. Suddenly, she grabbed Guan Ruerue's wrist, questioning coldly, "Why is this bracelet with you?" Guan Ruerue had intentionally worn this bracelet today, with a hint of showing off. Seeing that she had finally noticed her wrist, and being suddenly grabbed, she immediately feigned shock and cried out in pain. "It hurts." As soon as Guan Ruerue cried out, Bai Shuqin's expression instantly changed. She grabbed Guan Xiushu's hand and pulled her away, shouting sharply, "Guan Xiushu, what do you think you're doing?" Guan Xiushu stared intently at Guan Ruerue, her voice somewhat cold. "That's the bracelet Grandma left me." "What, your bracelet?" "That was what the old lady left to the daughters of the Guan family. You're not a member of the Guan family anymore, so of course the bracelet belongs to Ruerue." Guan Xiushu bit her lip and simply let go of the suitcase she was pulling, turning to look at Guan's father. "I can leave everything in the Guan family behind. I just want the bracelet Grandma left me." If there was anything in the Guan family that she was attached to, it was only Grandma. Grandma was the only person in this family who genuinely loved her, and even on her deathbed, she was worried that she wouldn't be okay after she left. That bracelet was the only memento Grandma left her. Chapter 2. That mountain belongs to our family. Guan Qishan, who had been silent until now, finally spoke. His young features, identical to Guan's father, carried a hint of dissatisfaction and heartache. "Xiushu, that belongs to Ruerue. When did you become so greedy?" Guan Xiushu's hands, which were hanging by her sides, clenched secretly, and then she heard him say, If you obediently give the spot to Ruerue, I can persuade Mom and Dad to let you stay. Guan Qixin believed he had given her the best option, one she should be grateful for. Guan's father also said, although you were adopted, I've always treated you like my own daughter. Our Guan family is a respectable family and wouldn't send a daughter back to her birth parents without even giving her luggage. Your birth parents' family isn't well off, so you should take what you need. As for giving her the bracelet, he didn't mention a word. Guan Ruerue then spoke up, looking wronged. Sister, I know you really want this bracelet, but after all, it's Grandma's thing. How about this? I'll transfer you some money, okay? Is 10,000 enough? If not, 20,000? The implied meaning in her words was clearly that she wanted the bracelet to exchange it for money. Guan Xiushu immediately glared coldly at Guan Ruerue. Guan Ruerue shuddered under her gaze. Guan Xiushu looked at the three people in front of her with a very indifferent expression, and the words she spoke were crisp and decisive. I don't need your money, and I don't need you to speak for me to stay. Once, to gain their approval, she learned etiquette, made amulets for them with her own hands, and treated them like her real family, doing her best to be good to them, but she never received a sincere heart in return. Even when she nearly died for Guan Ruerue, she didn't even get a glance from them. She would never covet such a family again. Guan Qixin's face turned somewhat unpleasant when he heard her unwavering refusal, feeling that Guan Xiushu was truly ungrateful. What good days could she have after leaving the Guan family? Bai Shuqin stood in front of Guan Ruerue and scolded in an annoyed and sharp voice. Qixin, why are you saying all this to her? Even if she gives up her spot and cries to stay, our family won't want her. And she can forget about taking anything from the Guan family. Guan Ruerue then stepped forward, looking as if she wanted to persuade her, but spoke in a voice that only the two of them could hear, with a hint of triumphant boasting. Sister, I forgot to tell you, Brother Pei confessed to me the day before yesterday, and we plan to get engaged in a few days. I know Sister has always liked Brother Pei, but I still hope you'll bless us. Guan Xiushu looked at her gloating face and asked her expressionlessly, who told you I liked him? Guan Ruerue was stunned, obviously not expecting this reaction from her. According to her idea, shouldn't Guan Xiushu be so heartbroken as to kneel down and weep when she heard that the person she liked confessed to her? Guan Xiushu just looked at her with the eyes of someone looking at an idiot. Although you're blind, I'll bless you. After all, when two scourges are together, they can't harm others anymore. That's good. Guan Ruerue's pupils shrank when she heard her words, and she almost lost her composure. Guan Xiushu ignored her and turned to look at the others in the Guan family. I will repay you for the upbringing expenses from childhood to adulthood. From now on, I have nothing to do with your family. The Guan family schemed against her fate, but she severed this karmic connection. The disasters Guan Ruerue made her bear in the past will be repaid to Guan Ruerue twice over in the future. She repaid the upbringing fees, settling the Guan family's debt of gratitude. The kindness of upbringing and all karmic ties were completely severed, so even if she took action against the Guan family in the future, she would not bear any karmic repercussions. She glanced at the bracelet on Guan Ruerue's wrist one last time, and said, you won't be able to keep this bracelet. Before long, I'll make you return it to me with your own hands. Having said that, Guan Xiushu left without any lingering attachment, walking out of the Guan family's villa alone. Bai Shuqin watched her leave, so angry that she could barely speak. See, just as I thought, an ungrateful wretch. If it weren't for Ruerue's sake, I would have kicked her out long ago. Guan Ruerue timely took her arm and soothed her. Sister is probably suddenly upset about being sent back to such a poor place. That's why she's acting like this. Mom, don't be mad at her. You are just too kind. Bai Shuqin looked helplessly at her youngest daughter, then looked in the direction Guan Xiushu had left, scolding under her breath. To be hit like that and not die or get hurt, she must be possessed by some kind of monster. Luckily, we took the opportunity to send her away. Otherwise, who knows how she would have brought disaster to our family. All right, stop talking about it. Guan's father said in a deep voice, decisively ending the topic. What the Guan family of four didn't know was that the moment Guan Xiushu stepped out of the Guan family's garden, the blazing sun that had been shining over the Guan family seemed to be covered by dark clouds, and even the surrounding temperature seemed to drop a few degrees. In the shadows, there were sounds of rustling and giggling. She's gone, she's finally gone. This house is ours now, he he he. Guan Xiushu walked all the way to the villa area gate. The sun was high in the sky, but she didn't show any signs of heat, not even a drop of sweat on her forehead, as if her body was automatically isolating the sweltering heat. Taking out her phone from her pocket, Guan Baocheng, which was the contact information of her biological parents that Guan's father had given her before, but she had not contacted them yet. Guan Xiushu didn't know much about her biological parents. But living in the mountains, it was certain that they were not rich. The college entrance exam had just ended, and after that came university. If her biological parents didn't have the money to support her to continue her studies, she could find a way to earn money herself. As for the possibility of being sold off to marry someone after returning, Guan Xiushu wasn't worried at all. In this world, there shouldn't be anyone who could sell her. As Guan Xiushu thought, she found the string of phone numbers and was about to press the dial button when she heard a loud noise from the helipad not far away. Looking up, she saw more than a dozen neatly arranged black helicopters slowly landing on the helipad not far away. Although the villa area where the Guan family was located was not the top villa area in the city, there were still many luxury cars coming and going on weekdays, but it was the first time Guan Xiushu had seen more than a dozen private helicopters landing directly. She just assumed it was some local nouveau riche boss putting on a show, and was about to leave. Unexpectedly, just as she shifted her foot to the side, the bodyguards who descended from the dozen helicopters moved like an army, swiftly stopping in front of her, forming two neat rows. Then, the doors opened, and the pilots in black suits and white gloves quickly disembarked and stood in two lines, clearly well trained. At this moment, the door of the central aircraft slowly opened. Guan Xiushu saw a long leg encased in dark gray suit pants step out first. The man descended from the cabin, tall and slender. His impeccably tailored suit of the same color accentuated his exceptionally handsome features, making him appear even more refined and elegant. The man looked at her, approached her slowly, and then spoke, his voice low and pleasant. Guan Xiushu. Guan Xiushu looked at the man's eyes and eyebrows, which had a familiar resemblance to her own, and vaguely guessed his identity. I am. The man glanced at the phone screen in her hand, still on the dialing page, clicked his tongue, reached out, and suddenly pressed the dial button for her. The next second, a melodious ringtone sounded from his pocket. He took out his phone, held the caller ID screen up to Guan Xiushu, bent down slightly to match her height, and said with a smile, "Nice to meet you. I'm your brother, Jiang. Guan Xiushu." Guan Xiushu silently assessed the exceptionally handsome brother in front of her, and then looked past him at the fleet of planes and the well-trained pilots and bodyguards behind him, before finally finding her voice. "I heard my parents live in the mountains." The implication being, this display doesn't look like my family's style. Jiang thought she was going to say something else, and simply said, "The old home is indeed in the mountains." He paused and then added, "But that mountain belongs to our family." Guan Xiushu. So her biological parents' family is not only not poor, but also owns an entire mountain? Who can own an entire mountain? Does the country allow it? Chapter 3. Blinded by his golden light. My family asked me to come pick you up and specially instructed me to be formal for our first meeting, so I temporarily requisitioned a helicopter team. It's not a large number, just make do with it. Guan Xiushu looked at the overwhelming number of team members who almost blocked the entire entrance of the villa, and remained silent. You call this making do? Jiang waved his hand towards the people behind him, and suddenly gestured, "Greet her." "Mess!" The pilots in uniform shouted in unison, their voices as neat as a military slogan. "Welcome Miss home." Guan Xiushu. Why does she feel a strange sense of embarrassing chinibyu? Perhaps because she had received too much cold treatment in the Guan family since childhood. Guan Xiushu was not good at dealing with such enthusiastic scenes. She opened her mouth and only managed to squeeze out a sentence to Jiang. Let's go. Let's go quickly. Didn't you see the villa security guards have already run over? Jiang smiled as he watched her reaction. Then, as if suddenly thinking of something, his handsome eyes narrowed slightly as he looked her up and down, asking, But why are you here all alone? Appearing alone at the villa gate at this hour, she couldn't possibly be out buying soy sauce, could she? Guan Xiushu pursed her lips upon hearing this, not wanting to say that she had been kicked out by the Guan family ahead of time. She was pondering how to gloss over it when another voice suddenly rang out. It was a somewhat cold, clear, and husky male voice, deep, pleasant to the ear, and a little impatient. Aren't you leaving yet? Guan Xiushu followed the voice and realized there was another person on the original helicopter. Just one glance almost blinded her. Inside the cockpit, the man's long legs were slightly bent. From her angle, she could only see half of his body hidden in the shadow of the door. His wrist rested casually on the handrail for getting off the plane, his posture elegant and steady. Even the wrinkles on his suit seemed to possess a strange allure. But more than all of that, what truly blinded Guan Xiushu was the golden light emanating from the man. Since she was young, her eyes could see things that ordinary people couldn't. The aura representing a person's luck had many colors, but she had only ever seen gold on people who had contributed to the country. But looking at the almost blinding golden light before her, did this person steal the country's fortune? The moment Jiang heard the man speak, he didn't bother asking more questions and hurriedly responded with a smile. Let's go, we're leaving now. As he said that, he pushed Guan Xiushu's shoulder towards the helicopter, deliberately lowering his voice to mutter, "TSK, the Great Demon King is so impatient." Then Guan Xiushu was brought before the Great Demon King, pushed into the airplane seat next to him. Seeing him from this close, the golden light was even more intense. Braving the blinding glare, Guan Xiushu finally caught a glimpse of the other person's true face. Like the man's cold yet sharp voice, his features were chiseled, with distinct edges and corners, his handsomeness revealing a hint of cold, hard beauty. His thin lips carried a cool temperature, like the ice and snow from a high and frigid mountain, submerged in his deep, dark pupils. As if sensing her overly intense gaze, the man slightly turned his head, a single glance seeming to capture all her exploration and emotions. Guan Xiushu was very curious about the golden light on him, but worried that he would think her a fool. She thought for a moment and asked him, "Are you also my brother?" That one sentence made Jiang, who was sitting opposite them, burst out laughing. The man beside her only glanced at him coldly, then silently retracted his deep gaze. No. He didn't say a single extra word. Fortunately, there was still Jiang on this plane. "This is Chu Beihe, not your brother. I'm your only brother." When Guan Xiushu heard this name, it sounded vaguely familiar, but she couldn't remember where she had heard it before. However, of the 4 major families in High City, 2 of them are the Chu and Jiang families. Is it a coincidence? Jiang further explained, "I came to pick you up today, and he's just hitching a ride." Guan Xiushu understood upon hearing this, and was about to nod when she saw the man, who had already withdrawn his gaze, suddenly glance at Jiang. His thin lips parted slightly, and he said coldly, "You're using my helicopter fleet." As the head of the Chu family, he didn't need to hitch a ride with anyone. Jiang, however, was unconcerned and simply spread his hands. "There's no choice. The company's vehicles have all been dispatched. Among the people I know, you're the only one who has a dedicated helicopter fleet for their own personal travel." Chu Beihe, a high-end obsessive-compulsive who even requires his subordinates' socks to be the same color and style. Not to mention his helicopters, where even the floor mats inside the aircraft are required to be identical. While the 3 were talking, the fleet of all-black helicopters had already slowly started, escorting the luxurious helicopter in the middle, leaving as grandly as they had arrived. As the helicopter fleet rumbled away, the security guards who had been watching this scene exchanged glances and began to discuss. Was the person picked up by the helicopter the eldest daughter of the Guan family? It's her. I heard the day before yesterday that she wasn't the Guan family's biological daughter, and now she's been kicked out. I heard her biological parents are from the mountains. The mountains? Look at that spectacle, it doesn't seem like someone from the mountains. Maybe her biological parents are some big shots. If that's the case, wouldn't the Guan family be regretting it to death? Although there are strict regulations in the security room, everyone privately discusses the gossip of the wealthy residents in the villa area quite a bit. As they were talking, One of them quickly shut his mouth and turned to respectfully bow towards the direction of the gate. Speak of the devil, and he shall appear. It's the Guan family's car. Bai Shuqin and Guan Ruerui sat in the back seat, not even glancing at the security guards who were respectfully bowing to them. As noble residents, they never paid attention to these lower-class security guards. Although the final list of city representatives has been decided, it hasn't been officially submitted yet. I've inquired, and the person responsible for submitting the final list is a representative from Jiang Group. Bai Shuqin spoke to Guan Ruerui beside her, a smile on her lips. It just so happens that your father discussed a collaboration with Jiang Group the day before yesterday, so we can directly use their connections. Guan Ruerui was pleasantly surprised to hear this. Jiang Group? That's backed by the Jiang family, one of the 4 major families. Dad actually collaborated with them. He's amazing. Bai Shuqin's face was also filled with pride when she spoke of this, but she still pretended to be nonchalant. Of course, it's that Jiang family. Many people offer money and come to their door seeking cooperation, but don't even get a word of acknowledgement. But they proactively approached your father, which shows our family's status in High City. In the future, there will only be more people coming to our door seeking collaboration. Hearing this, Guan Ruerui's face showed visible excitement. Being able to cooperate with the Jiang family meant that their family would soon be able to join the ranks of Shanghai's top wealthy families, right? The caliber of fiancés she could choose from would also be different from now on. Sure enough, the Guan family started to get lucky as soon as Guan Shushu left. That's great, Guan Ruerui said, with a touch of feigned coyness. If we directly asked them for help, would they refuse? Bai Shuqin looked confident. They've already taken the initiative to ask us for cooperation. Since we're partners, isn't it natural for them to help with such a small matter? She then took Guan Ruerui's hand. Don't worry, Mom will definitely help you get back the title of City Image Representative. This concerns the image of our Shanghai. That ungrateful wretch wants to steal it from you. She should know her place. Guan Ruerui was extremely pleased in her heart, feeling that the city representative was already in her pocket, but on the surface, she still pretended to be well-behaved and not competitive. After a pause, she asked, Are we going to the headquarters of Jiang Group now? Not the headquarters, Bai Shuqin said. We're going directly to the Jiang family. Chapter for the top luxury family, the Jiangs. The Jiang family, Yinjiang No. 1, located in the city center of Shanghai, is the most luxurious residential area in the entire city. Despite being in a prime location, the greening rate within the villa area is as high as 80%. In addition to the artificially excavated lake, there are also rockeries and gardens designed at a huge cost. The villa security is at the level of retired Special Forces soldiers, and property qualification verification is required for viewing and purchasing, because this is where the top luxury families in Shanghai gather. Guan Shushu knew about this place. Guan Baoqing had always dreamed of buying a house here, because living here meant being neighbors with the top families, which meant that he was also one of the top elites. A fleet of identical helicopters parked on the spacious helipad in the villa area. A black Maybach was already waiting nearby. The 3 of them changed cars, and the car drove through the open lawn in the park, eventually stopping in front of a 4-story manor villa. Jiang Huai led Guan Shushu out of the car, but Chu Beiha remained seated. When other people's families are reuniting, even if the friendship is good, you shouldn't disturb them, that's etiquette. Jiang Huai waved his hand, and the Maybach started again, driving deeper into the villa area. The Chu family lives in front. I'll take you to formally visit later. After Jiang Huai explained, he led Guan Shushu inside. The European-style manor villa exudes a luxurious atmosphere. After passing through the garden and entering the villa, bypassing the entrance hall, and entering the living room, Guan Shushu was immediately greeted by a large group of Jiang family members sitting in the hall. On the way here, Jiang Huai had given her a brief introduction. As Guan Shushu had guessed, the Jiang family was one of the 4 major families in Shanghai, with a total of 4 branches, 3 sons and 1 daughter, each with their own families. The old man had retired 2 years ago due to health reasons, and Jiang Group was handed over to the eldest son, Jiang Yuqing. My second uncle, Jiang Yuman, was a popular singer in China when he was young. Later, he started his own entertainment company and is now one of the leading figures in the industry. My third uncle, Jiang Yutong, is the vice president of Jiang Group, responsible for several key industries of the group. My aunt, Jiang Yusin, is also a strong woman. She independently created an international top brand and has a great influence in the fashion circle. As for the younger generation, perhaps the yang energy of the Jiang family is too strong. The 4 branches of the Jiang family are all grandsons, except for the youngest daughter of the second branch, and Lu Xueshi, a daughter of the Jiang old lady's family raised in the Jiang family. Looking at the scene, it is clear that several branches of the Jiang family have basically arrived. When they saw Guan Xiushu and Jiang Huai entering the door, everyone looked up in unison. Everyone's eyes towards her were scrutinizing, curious, disdainful, or implicitly dissatisfied. Grandpa. Jiang Huai's posture was normal. He took a long stride forward and called out to the old man sitting in the center of the sofa, while introducing, "This is Xiushu." He then gestured to Guan Xiushu. "Xiushu, call Grandpa." Guan Xiushu looked at the old man sitting upright in the center, looking at her with a smile. She is not very proficient in physiognomy. Although the old man in front of her has a smile in his eyes, his mountain root is straight, his forehead is broad, and his eye sockets are deep. He is the type of person who has his own opinions. In other words, this is a person who is used to giving orders. "Grandpa." Guan Xiushu called out honestly. The old man nodded and said kindly, "Good, it's good to be back. From now on, you are the eldest lady of our Jiang family, and no one can bully you." Jiang Huai turned to Jiang Yuqing, who was sitting next to Jiang, and introduced, "This is Dad." Guan Xiushu followed his line of sight. Compared to the old man's amiable face, Jiang Yuqing gave a relatively cold feeling, especially the coldness revealed by the edges and corners of his face in profile. His facial features were clear, and one could vaguely see his handsome appearance when he was young. The fine lines that time has deposited on his face do not show any signs of aging, but instead reveal the charm of a mature man. He is a different type from Guan Baocheng. Guan Xiushu opened her mouth and whispered, "Dad." Jiang Yuqing's thin lips tightened slightly because of this "dad." When he looked at Guan Xiushu, his whole face did not show too much emotion. After a long while, he responded in a deep voice, Jiang Huai then introduced her to the other elders of the Jiang family one by one. Guan Xiushu silently looked around. Except for her grandmother and another cousin who were still in the nursing home, almost all the Jiang family members were present. However, none of these people were her mother. According to Jiang Huai, she was taken away, and her mother tracked down the kidnapper alone, but accidentally fell into the sea on the way, and her body has not been found yet. Perhaps she was a little silent. The woman who was called second aunt just now took the initiative to come forward and put her arm around Guan Xiushu's arm intimately, her eyes full of heartache and love. "Xiushu must be tired from just coming back. Second aunt has already asked someone to clean up your room for you. Take a look and see if you like it. If there is anything you don't like, tell me anytime." The Jiang family patriarch adhered to traditional ideas regarding family matters, emphasizing that the family should not be divided while the parents are alive. Except for the fourth daughter, who had already married out, the other 3 branches of the family all lived together in this manor villa. The woman was named Yao Lin, around 40 years old, but she maintained her figure and skin extremely well. At first glance, she looked like a noble lady from a prestigious family. However, the way her heartache was juxtaposed with her vain and prejudiced face felt very incongruous to Guan Xiushu. Guan Xiushu subtly pulled her arm back, and was about to politely thank her when a boy suddenly jumped out from the side. He was about 13 or 14 years old, and when he spoke he said, "Second aunt, please prepare another room for her. The original one is Sister Xueshi's nursery. If you give it to her, Sister Xueshi's baby will have nowhere to go." The boy was the youngest son of the third branch, named Jiang Su, and he was the most reckless of all the Jiang family members. As expected, as soon as he said this, several people in the hall showed expressions that were hard to describe. The third uncle, Jiang Yutong, immediately put on a stern face. "What nonsense are you talking about? This is none of your business. Why are you yelling at me? I didn't say anything wrong." Jiangsu retorted. There are so many rooms in the house that aren't being used, but as soon as she arrives, she wants to take over Sister Xuexi's nursery. Why? The girl sitting among the younger generation had stood up at some point, her beautiful and jade-like face showing some self-blame. Xiaosu, don't say that. This was the Lu Xuexi that the boy was talking about. Lu Xuexi was the niece of the Jiang family matriarch. Back then, because Guan Xuxu was lost, in order to comfort the eldest son, and also to alleviate the situation of the Jiang family being predominantly male, the Jiang family matriarch specially adopted Lu Xuexi from her maternal family. She had been raised in the Jiang family since she was 3 years old, growing up with all her cousins. She then turned to Guan Xuxu and said softly, Xuxu, don't blame him. Xiaosu doesn't mean any harm. He just can't stand seeing me wronged. The room is yours if it's given to you. I'll be fine with anything. Her attitude was generous and appropriate, but every word emphasized that she had been wronged. A familiar recipe filled with Guan Ruirui's essence. Guan Xuxu silently reflected. Was her constitution too special, so she always attracted this kind of tea spirit? The girl turned her head again, feigning reproach. Xiaosu apologized quickly. Xuxu is your sister. Tisich. The boy looked disdainful, snorting softly. She's not my sister. With a clang, someone's cup was heavily knocked on the marble table, and the living room suddenly fell silent. Chapter 5. My sister will not be wronged. On the single sofa on one side of the living room, Jiang Yuqing was sitting expressionlessly in place, the teacup in front of him leaving watermarks on the table. After a long while, he slightly turned his head to look at Jiangsu, and asked in a calm tone, Xuxu is my daughter. Is my daughter not worthy of being your sister? The boy, who had been reckless just now, visibly cowered. Uncle, I didn't mean that. Beside him, Jiang Huai watched with a smile as his father suppressed the younger one with a single glance, then turned his head and simply looked at Lu Xuexi. Xuexi, do you feel wronged living in the Jiang family? Lu Xuexi's face paled when she was called out, and she hurriedly denied. No, brother Jiang Huai, you misunderstood me. Since you don't, then don't say things that can be misunderstood in the future. Jiang Huai still had a smile in his eyes, and his voice was gentle and pleasant, but it carried a pressure that made people afraid to act rashly. Lu Xuexi opened her mouth, then lowered her head and dared not say any more, but bit her lip secretly as she lowered her head. Yao Lin, who was beside her, spoke in a timely manner to smooth things over. It's my fault for not arranging things properly. It's just a room, it's not a big deal. Second aunt's arrangement was indeed a bit inappropriate. As the eldest grandson of the Jiang family, Jiang Huai was never tactful even when facing his elders. Xuxu is my sister, the eldest lady of the Jiang family. It would be ridiculous if word got out that she was living in a room that was converted from a spare children's room. As he spoke, he suddenly put his arm around Guan Xuxu's shoulders, looking very protective. My sister didn't come home to suffer such grievances. His words, intentionally or unintentionally, made Lu Xuexi blush beside him. She had just hinted to everyone that she was being wronged, but Jiang Huai turned around and said that it was a grievance to let Guan Xuxu live in her old room. Wasn't this a slap in her face? On the other side, Guan Xuxu, who was suddenly embraced, stiffened. She didn't know if it was because of Jiang Huai's actions or because of his words. As for being wronged, she couldn't really say. Compared to what she had suffered in the Guan family, these few words were nothing. But this was the first time someone had asked her if she would be wronged. Her heart felt warm, as if she was experiencing for the first time what it was like to have a family. Yao Lin's face was obviously a little embarrassed, but she cursed inwardly that Jiang Huai was still as disrespectful to her as ever. She subconsciously looked at Jiang Yuqing and Grandpa Jiang beside her, but seeing that neither of them spoke, she could only suppress the frustration in her heart and try to maintain her elegance. Jiang Huai is right. It was second aunt who didn't consider it properly. I'll have someone rearrange it. Jiang Huai immediately smiled and nodded at her. Then I'll trouble second aunt to handle it as soon as possible. Then he turned to everyone. I'll take Xuxu to the garden for a walk first. With that, he took Guan Xuxu to the garden without regard for the opinions of the people in the hall. After the two left, the atmosphere in the hall became heavy. Yao Lin felt extremely wronged and opened her mouth to explain, but at this moment, the housekeeper walked in from outside and said to Grandpa Jiang, "Master, the guard at the gate called and said that a Madame Guan has come to visit." With the surname Guan, everyone subconsciously thought of Guan Xiuxiu. They thought to themselves, wasn't this person just brought over from the Guan family? Why did she chase after them so eagerly? She must be here to see Xiuxiu, right? It seems that she can't bear to part with the child. Jiang's third aunt smiled and spoke, also to ease the atmosphere. She had noticed just now that Guan Xiuxiu didn't bring any luggage when she entered the house. Although I don't know why, the Guan family must have come to deliver the luggage on purpose. Well, knowing that Xiuxiu is the daughter of the Jiang family, even if the Guan family is confused, they wouldn't be stupid enough to not even give her the luggage. The butler seemed to hesitate for a moment, then said, "That Mrs. Guan said she's here to visit the third madam." The Jiang third madam's smile stiffened, inexplicably bewildered. "Looking for me? Why wouldn't the Guan family's wife look for her child, and instead look for her?" On the other side, the Jiang family's garden is a typical European style, with the antique fence on the side of the villa covered in climbing roses, and the well-maintained lawn extending with vibrant greenery, appearing especially brilliant in the hot summer sun. Guan Xiuxiu followed behind Jiang Huai, listening to him casually introducing some of the garden's little features, but her thoughts quietly drifted back to the scene where Jiang Huai stood up for her in the living room earlier. A strange, subtle feeling. After a long while, she couldn't help but whisper, "Thank you." Jiang Huai paused, looked at her, and suddenly smiled, ruffling her hair. "No need to say thank you to your brother." Guan Xiuxiu just looked at him like that, her hair ruffled by him, giving off a kind of cute and innocent feeling, making Jiang Huai's smile deepen. Just as he was about to say something more, his phone rang at the right time. Jiang Huai glanced at the caller ID, gestured for Guan Xiuxiu to wander around as she pleased, and walked to the side to answer the phone. Guan Xiuxiu walked forward on her own, taking about 10 steps, when suddenly, her gaze fell on an auntie who was wiping the tables and chairs in the garden gazebo. The auntie was about 50 years old and didn't look particularly noticeable, but from Guan Xiuxiu's angle, she could easily see wisps of yin qi swirling around her, which only people who had been tainted by evil karma possessed. Guan Xiuxiu generally didn't like to meddle in other people's business, because actively getting involved easily invited karma. But if this person was left unattended, the yin qi on her body might affect the other people in the house. She walked over. The auntie had a rag in her hand, wiping mechanically, her expression somewhat dazed and bewildered, her eyes occasionally looking in one direction. It wasn't until Guan Xiuxiu walked in front of her that she suddenly snapped back to her senses and hurriedly greeted her. "Miss, you recognize me?" Guan Xiuxiu was a little surprised. She had only arrived at this house for a little over half an hour, and hadn't even met all the members of the Jiang family yet. The butler took photos and asked all the servants in the house to recognize you in advance, so we wouldn't accidentally bump into you, miss, the auntie explained with a flattering smile. Guan Xiuxiu didn't expect the Jiang family to have made such arrangements in advance, silently and discreetly, but considerate enough. It lived up to the style of a large family. "Is there anything you need, miss?" the auntie asked when she didn't say anything. Just as Guan Xiuxiu was about to speak, she suddenly saw two familiar figures walking through the garden gate. It was Bai Shuqin and Guan Ruerue. When they were let in by the butler in a suit, they also saw Guan Xiuxiu in the gazebo at a glance. The moment they saw her, they both looked surprised. "Why are you here?" Chapter 6. My sister will tell on me. Bai Shuqin never expected that the person who had just been kicked out of the house would be seen again in the Jiang family's garden in less than an hour. Bai Shuqin's face showed obvious surprise, but only for a second. Her eyes suddenly fell on the middle-aged woman next to her, who was clearly dressed as a nanny, and she immediately understood. This woman is probably Guan Xiuxiu's biological mother. Just a helper. Well, coming from the mountains, what decent job could she find? Being a helper in a place like this is considered decent enough. Guan Ruerue obviously guessed the same. She felt disdain and amusement in her heart, but on the surface she looked sympathetic and concerned. "Sister, so your family works here. But this is the Jiang family, you must be careful not to touch anything," lest you cause trouble for them. The butler leading the way heard this, and his expression cracked slightly. He was about to explain when Guan Xiushu said indifferently, "No need to worry." After a pause, she saw those clear, bright almond eyes turn from behind Guan Ruerue. Saw the pale gray shadow almost clinging to her back. Guan Xiushu raised her eyebrows slightly, and added, "If I were you, I would stay at home and behave myself right now, instead of wandering around carelessly." She had left her protective magical artifacts at home, so ordinary evil spirits wouldn't dare to approach casually, but away from there, it was hard to say. Bai Shuqin saw that after recognizing a nanny as her biological mother, her attitude was still so annoying, and her face almost twisted with anger. However, considering that the Jiang family's butler was still next to her, she endured it and turned to Guan Ruerue to persuade. "Ruerue, you have a good nature, but you have to know who to be good to. She's an ungrateful wretch who can't tell good from bad. Why bother persuading her?" Then she turned to the butler and explained helplessly, "I apologize for the scene. This is a child we used to adopt. We didn't expect that after all the hard work of raising her, she would turn against us after finding her biological parents. Alas, this child never learned to be good before, and was always clumsy. We could tolerate her in our family, but now that she's in someone else's home, I don't know what trouble she'll cause." Bai Shuqin looked very worried, but the meaning in her words was almost explicitly saying that keeping such a person in the Jiang family was bound to cause trouble. The butler was secretly shocked to hear this. "Doesn't this Mrs. Guan know that the person in front of her is the eldest lady of our Jiang family who we finally found? She can slander the eldest lady like this in front of him, a butler." He couldn't imagine what kind of life the young lady used to live in the Guan family. The butler, who had originally treated the Guan family as honored guests because they had raised the young lady, suddenly became cold. Bai Shuqin, however, thought that the butler had listened to her words and become dissatisfied with Guan Xiushu, hence his cold face. She sneered inwardly. She would watch this ungrateful wretch be driven out, and see if she would dare to act like this when she saw her again. As for wanting her to give up the spot, Bai Shuqin thought that with the Jiang family's connections, she didn't need to waste words with her anymore. It was just a spot. If Ruerue wanted it, she could just take it. The nanny next to her had been standing silently since Bai Shuqin and Guan Ruerue walked over. After all, the Jiang family had many rules, and servants usually didn't casually talk to the guests of the masters. However, the more she listened to what this guest was saying, the more she felt that something was off. What the other party just said seemed to be about the eldest young lady of the Jiang family who had just been found. This. The butler couldn't help but speak up when he saw this attitude. "Mrs. Guan, Miss Guan Yu." Before he could finish speaking, another voice came. "What's wrong?" It was Jiang Huai, who had finished his phone call and came looking for them. Seeing these people standing next to Guan Xiushu, he subconsciously quickened his pace and walked up to them in a few steps. The moment she saw Jiang Huai, Guan Ruerue's eyes lit up. Bai Shuqin also sized up the young man in front of her, her eyes scanning over the diamond cufflinks on his hands and the $1,000,000 watch. She secretly wondered which young master of the Jiang family he was. When the butler saw Jiang Huai, his expression became slightly serious. He was about to reply, but he realized that his young master was asking the eldest young lady, so he pursed his lips and didn't answer. Guan Xiushu didn't know if it was because of Jiang Huai's previous protection of her or something else, but hearing him ask, she blurted out a complaint as if possessed. "Oh, they were just making things difficult for me." In a word, concise and to the point, but it suddenly caused the air to fall into a strange silence. Bai Shuqin, who had come to her senses, immediately screamed, "You little dead girl! What nonsense are you talking about?" As she spoke, she raised her hand to hit Guan Xiushu. Jiang Huai was originally amused to see his sister complaining to him, but the smile on his face suddenly turned cold the moment he saw Bai Shuqin's movements. However, before he could do anything, he saw that his sister, who was supposed to be a pitiful little thing, had already quickly raised her hand and accurately and decisively grabbed Bai Shuqin's raised wrist. Her sudden movement surprised not only him, but also Bai Shuqin, who seemed not to have expected her to dare to resist. She subconsciously tried to pull her hand back. However, Guan Xiushu seemed to be holding her lightly, but the strength in her hand was unambiguous. Bai Shuqin couldn't shake her off for a moment. Guan Xiuxiu, with her hand clenched around hers, coldly glanced at Bai Shuqin. Don't forget, I'm no longer your Guan family's daughter, and I won't let you beat and scold me again. As she said this, she simply let go. Bai Shuqin, who had been struggling, staggered backward because of her sudden release. Mom! Guan Ruerue exclaimed and hurriedly reached out to support Bai Shuqin, who almost staggered and fell. When she turned her head to look at Guan Xiuxiu, her face was full of disbelief. Sister, no matter what, Mom is the one who raised you. How can you attack Mom at the slightest disagreement? You're too much. Even at this time, Guan Ruerue was still diligently trying to poison Guan Xiuxiu. After all, no one would trust the character of someone who would turn against their adoptive mother, who raised them. Guan Xiuxiu was truly tired of Guan Ruerue's hypocritical performance. She raised her almond-shaped eyes and retorted without any politeness. Which eye of yours saw me hitting her? Just because you're blind doesn't mean everyone else is as blind as you. Jiang Huai listened from the side, his eyes full of curious amusement. So his sister, who usually looked docile and easy to bully, could actually be so sharp-tongued. Not bad, truly a child of the Jiang family. While he was listening with interest, Bai Shuqin became enraged because Guan Xiuxiu dared to fight back. She raised her, so if she wanted to hit her, she should obediently stand there and let her hit her. As a result, not only did she dare to resist, but she also dared to scold Ruerue. Ignoring the fact that this was the Jiang family's territory, she pushed Guan Ruerue aside and was about to rush towards Guan Xiuxiu. You little brat. You little bitch. Guan Xiuxiu watched expressionlessly, taking a step back and preparing to react, but unexpectedly, a figure moved faster than her, standing directly in front of her. The man's back was broad and straight, bringing a solid sense of security. The smile in his eyes had completely disappeared at this moment, and his whole body exuded a forceful aura, cold and terrifying. This is the Jiang family, not a place for people to run wild. Chapter 7. Withdrawing cooperation with the Guan family. Jiang Huai's voice successfully pulled Bai Shuqin's precarious sanity back, the impulsive anger as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over her head, instantly stopping all her movements. At the same time, the commotion here finally attracted the attention of people inside the villa, and Jiang Yuqing walked out. What's going on? As the current head of Jianghai Group, Jiang Yuqing was a figure who had appeared in various media and financial reports. Bai Shuqin recognized him almost immediately, and she didn't bother to argue with Guan Xiuxiu. Her face changed, and she greeted him with a smile. President Jiang, I am Guan Baoqing's wife, the president of Guan's building materials. I didn't expect you to be home. This is great. Jiang Yuqing's gaze swept over Bai Shuqin, Guan Xiuxiu, and Jiang Huai. His expression unchanged, he only asked, Mrs. Guan, hello, do you have anything to say? With Jiang Yuqing's status, he didn't need to be so polite to people. He had never been someone who liked pleasantries, but knowing that this was the Guan family who had raised Xiuxiu, he became more patient and thoughtful, assuming that the other party should be here to explain Xiuxiu's living habits or something. Bai Shuqin didn't know why, only hearing him humbly ask if she had anything to explain. The vanity in her heart instantly inflated. This was the head of Jianghai Group. He was actually asking her to tell him what to do. This showed the importance of her company in the eyes of the president of Jianghai Group. The unpleasant mood from being angered by Jiang Huai earlier finally subsided, and she even subconsciously puffed out her chest. There are indeed some things to explain. Bai Shuqin glanced triumphantly at Guan Xiuxiu next to her, then quickly pulled Guan Ruerue over. President Jiang, this is my daughter, Guan Ruerue. Guan Ruerue busily and obediently greeted. Hello, Uncle Jiang. It's like this, I know that the landmark project in High City has landed, and the government plans to select 8 students from the 4 major universities as city image representatives for promotional film shooting. This final list will be handed over to Jianghai Group. Bai Shuqin said, due to some reasons, the spot that originally belonged to my daughter was replaced by someone else. So I came here hoping that Jianghai Group could help switch the spot back. It's just a matter of lifting a finger. Jiang Yuqing frowned slightly. He knew about this matter, but the third son was in charge of it, so he hadn't asked about it. According to his temperament, he didn't like this kind of using public office for private gain. But the person in front of him was the Guan family who raised Xiuxiu. So Jiang Yuqing couldn't help but have some considerations in his heart. Forget it, he would just take it as repaying them for raising Xiuxiu. Thinking this way, Jiang Yuqing relented. I will look into this matter. Who is the person who replaced your daughter's spot? I'll have my secretary investigate. Guan Shushu. Bai Shuqin almost couldn't wait to say. Jiang Yuqing paused in his action of taking out his phone, looked up at Bai Shuqin and was obviously stunned. Who did you say? Guan Shushu. Bai Shuqin repeated it again, thinking he didn't understand, and simply pointed to Guan Shushu next to her. It's her. This child was actually adopted by my family earlier, but she's an ungrateful wretch. Not only is she bad-tempered, but she also likes to lie. I didn't expect that her biological parents were actually working as helpers in the Jiang family. It's not that I want to speak ill of a child, but a person's character is fixed from birth. No matter how hard I try to teach her, she just can't learn. Bai Shuqin tirelessly tried to make Guan Shushu look bad. Jiang Huai's face turned dark. He finally understood what Xiuxiu meant by making things difficult. The housekeeper and the asa next to them were stunned. This. She actually dared to criticize the eldest lady so much in front of President Jiang. Was this person's brain broken? Guan Xiuxiu had long been accustomed to Bai Shuqin's slander against her. Even if she had just given the housekeeper a long lecture, she didn't care. But at the moment, in front of Jiang Huai and her newly met biological father, Bai Shuqin's words inexplicably made her angry. These were the family members who had just accepted her. She had just developed a trace of expectation for her so-called family members. But why? Why couldn't this person stand to see her doing well? Didn't Bai Shuqin know what others would think of her if they heard these words? She knew. But she didn't care. She simply wanted the whole world to hate her. When she was a child, as long as a teacher showed that they liked or even praised her, Bai Shuqin would use various ways to slander her in front of the teacher, making the teacher think that she was a bad child. The teachers probably never thought that any mother would slander their own child, and almost all believed Bai Shuqin's words, thinking that she was a bad child. Because the more she was disliked, the more Guan Ruerue could suppress her. Later, Bai Shuqin's dislike and slander of her seemed to have become a habit, just like now. Her hands clenched tightly at her sides as she listened to Bai Shuqin's incessant slander. Guan Shushu finally couldn't hold back. Shut up. Shut up. Two voices rang out in unison. Guan Shushu subconsciously turned her head to look at the other owner of the voice. It was Jiang Yuqing, his face covered in frost. He was already the type to look cold and stern, and now, with his face darkened, he seemed even more intimidating. Bai Shuqin was instantly silenced in fright. Jiang Yuqing stared at Bai Shuqin with a cold and oppressive expression. My Jiang family's daughter is not for an outsider like you to judge. Butler, show them out. Bai Shuqin was dumbfounded by his sudden change of face. She didn't quite catch the phrase Jiang family's daughter, and was about to press him when the butler beside her was already efficiently escorting her away. Jiang Yuqing coldly watched the two mothers being swiftly removed, then turned to Guan Shushu and asked, Were the Guan family always like this to you? As soon as he said this, he pressed his lips into a thin line, realizing he had asked a pointless question. They dared to slander her in front of him, so who knew how they had bullied his daughter in the Guan family in the past? He had thought that his daughter would at least be provided for when she was adopted by the Guan family, but he hadn't expected the Guan family to be such scum. The more Jiang Yuqing thought about it, the angrier he became. He turned his head and coldly instructed Jiang Huai, Call your third uncle, and tell him to withdraw from the cooperation project with Guans. That cooperation project had been specifically instructed to be given to Guans as a way to repay them for taking care of Xiuxiu, with preferential treatment in all aspects. It not only allowed Guans to make a profit of hundreds of millions, but also aimed to help Guans reach a higher level. But now that he knew the Guan family secretly treated Xiuxiu like this, he would no longer support them. They didn't deserve it. Only now did Jiang Huai revert to his previous smiling demeanor, readily taking out his phone. All right. Guan Xiuxiu, on the other hand, blankly watched Jiang Yuqing's outburst. As she lowered her eyes slightly, A faint smile that even she didn't notice curved the corners of her lips. Her new older brother and new father seemed different from the Guan family. That's good. At the front gate, Bai Shuqin and Guan Ruerue were unceremoniously ushered out of the Jiang family's gate. Neither of them understood why Mr. Jiang had suddenly become so angry. And what did he mean by what he said just now? The Jiang family's daughter? Who? The butler saw that the two of them hadn't realized it yet and thought to himself, how could the Guan family be so stupid? Originally, they had raised the eldest young lady, and with that kindness, the Jiang family would definitely give them plenty of benefits in the future. But the Guan family clearly still didn't know whose child the ungrateful adopted daughter they were talking about was. As a butler, he paid great attention to his professional ethics and would not easily resort to swearing or sarcastic remarks. He decided to politely remind them, our CEO Jiang lost a daughter 18 years ago. Today is the day our eldest young lady returns home. CEO Jiang naturally can't tolerate those slanders against her. We won't be receiving guests today, please leave. Having said that, he turned around and ordered people to close the villa gate, leaving Bai Shuqin and Guan Ruerue standing outside the gate, both stunned. Bai Shuqin supported her daughter's arm and asked blankly, Ruerue, what did he just say? What eldest young lady? Who? Guan Ruerue also couldn't believe what she heard, or rather, she didn't want to believe it. Impossible. I must have misheard. The Jiang family's daughter they were talking about couldn't be Guan Shushu. It can't be her. Bai Shuqin turned her head slowly to look at her daughter. After a long while, her legs suddenly weakened, and she was about to fall to the ground. It's over. We're finished. Chapter 8. Not even 30,000 yuan for pocket money. Bai Shuqin and Guan Ruerue were asked to leave before they even entered the Jiang family's entrance hall. This matter didn't alarm the Jiang family members in the villa. Over here, Jiang Su lost face because of what happened just now, so he simply pulled Lu Xueshi out of the villa. While walking along the garden path, he didn't forget to comfort her. Sister Xueshi, don't be sad. Brother Huai is just biased. He even gave up your dollhouse and still said those things. So what if she was just found? It's no big deal. Lu Xueshi sighed and said softly, Xiao Su, I know you're doing this for my own good, but don't say things like that again in the future. I wasn't originally a daughter of the Jiang family. Everything I have should have belonged to Shushu. It's not wrong for Brother Huai to say that. What are you saying? In my heart, Sister Xueshi is my only sister. I don't acknowledge that Guan Shushu. As the two were talking and walking forward, they suddenly heard Guan Shushu's voice. This auntie is tainted with some karma. If it's left unattended, it may affect the feng shui of the house. If Dad pays me, I can help resolve it for just 30,000 yuan. The two turned their heads and happened to see Guan Shushu facing Aunt Wu, saying this while seriously holding up 3 fingers at her. Guan Shushu had originally stopped Aunt Wu because of the yin energy on her body. Now that she had gotten rid of the unimportant people, she naturally had to get down to business. Although she had returned to the Jiang family, Guan Shushu never had the habit of asking people for money. This was perfect. She could get rid of the yin energy and also earn her college tuition. Even between father and daughter, accounts should be settled clearly. Jiang Yuqing and Jiang Huai on the side also obviously didn't expect her style to suddenly change so quickly. After all, feng shui and metaphysics didn't seem to match Guan Shushu. The two simply assumed that the child was short of money and was using feng shui and metaphysics as an excuse to ask for pocket money. They felt a little sorry for her. When had a child of the Jiang family ever lacked 30,000 yuan for pocket money? Jiang Huai simply took out his phone and was about to transfer money to her. Is 30,000 enough? I'll transfer you 100,000. Ask me for more if it's not enough. Jiang Yuqing was preempted by his son. His face darkened, and he also took out his phone, ready to transfer 300,000, which had to be more than his son's. However, when I took out my phone, I realized I didn't have my daughter's contact information. Just hearing those words, Guan Shushu knew that the two of them had misunderstood something. I'm serious. I know. Jiang Huai looked at her with a smile, his tone full of tolerance. Wu Aseo, who was standing beside them, also recovered from her initial shock and said cooperatively, Miss, you're saying there's karma on me? Then please help me resolve it. Guan Shushu. Can these adults respect my profession a little? Although, Guan Shushu wasn't encountering this kind of situation for the first time. Just as she was about to speak, she suddenly heard a snort of laughter from the side. You're embarrassed to even use such a low-level money-grabbing trick, and just for a mere 30,000 yuan. It's simply not presentable. Jiang really couldn't help but speak out. Even though he had just been scolded, he really couldn't stand people like Guan Shushu. Lu Xueshi also quickly followed, pulling on Jiang arm, looking very embarrassed. Shushu, little Su didn't mean to say that, don't blame him. Guan Shushu's gaze only swept over their faces lightly, ignoring them, and instead looked at Wuaseo again. The marriage line in your fate palace is broken. You should have lost your husband early, but you have a son. Judging from your face, your son is experiencing a tribulation, which should be related to money. Guan Shushu isn't very good at face reading, so she can only say the basics. But even the most basic things made Wuaseo obviously stunned. Especially when she heard the sentence about the tribulation related to money, a trace of panic flashed in her eyes. Guan Shushu continued, logically speaking, your personal karma shouldn't affect the master's house. But I see a very small connection between your luck and the Jiang family. You stole the Jiang family's wealth. Guan Shushu said the last sentence very confidently. Wuaseo's body trembled violently. No, she must be talking nonsense. How could she know what I did? Jiang Yuqing and Jiang Huai originally just listened as if it were a child's play, but seeing her serious tone, and hearing what she said later, a bit of seriousness appeared in their eyes. Lu Xueshi looked at Wuaseo's reaction, seemingly surprised. You're saying Wu Sa stole money from the family? She seemed incredulous, and explained for her. No, there must be a misunderstanding. Wu Sa has been working in the Jiang family for almost 10 years. How could she do such a thing? Wu Sa was originally a little flustered, but hearing Lu Xueshi's words, she immediately looked wronged and said sadly, Miss, you can't just say things like that. How could I steal money from the Jiang family? Everyone in this family knows me. I'm not that kind of person. As she said that, she looked at Jiang again. Young master, you believe me, I couldn't do such a thing. As she spoke, she covered her face, looking like she was about to cry. Jiang was naturally young at heart, and having been cared for by Aunt Wu since he was a child, he immediately glared at Guan Shushu when he saw her wronged expression, and said loudly, What's wrong with you? How could Aunt Wu steal money from the house? Today is your first day back to the Jiang family. What could you possibly know? You don't know anything and you're just making wild accusations, just to trick uncle out of a few tens of thousands of pocket money. Is it really worth it? In Jiangsu's eyes, Guan Shushu was just a stranger he met for the first time today, but Aunt Wu had been a member of the Jiang family for 10 years. In terms of closeness, he naturally trusted Aunt Wu more. He felt even more dislike for this so-called cousin, Guan Shushu. Seeing this, Lu Xueshi also spoke up. There must be some misunderstanding. Is there something Aunt Wu did that upset you? Her words subtly implied that Guan Shushu was using her power to take revenge for personal grievances. Aunt Wu seemed to have received some inspiration, and immediately started sobbing. Miss, I know you're angry because Madame Guan mistook me for your biological mother just now. I'm of low status. How can I be compared to someone like you? It's right for you to be angry, but you can't slander me like this. I'm old, you're trying to kill me. Chapter 9 Stealing Luck Charm. Aunt Wu didn't react at first, but later understood what Madame Guan and Miss Guan meant. This was a good reason to explain Guan Shushu's slander against her. Sure enough, as soon as she said this, Jiang Su, who was beside her, heard that there was indeed a backstory, and his eyes towards Guan Shushu were filled with disgust. You're too petty. Aunt Wu didn't do anything to you. Is it necessary? You're causing trouble on your first day back. You're simply... Before the words troublemaker could come out, a lukewarm voice came from the side, carrying some pressure, and pressed towards him lightly. Jiangsu. Just 2 words were enough to make him stop talking. When he looked at his eldest cousin, he found that the smile on his face had become a bit colder. He immediately shrank back slightly and didn't say anything more. However, the dissatisfaction with Guan Shushu in his eyes did not diminish in the slightest. With Jiangsu speaking up for her, Aunt Wu felt confident and straightened her back, her face full of indignation at being wronged. If Miss doesn't believe me, you can have my room searched. I'm upright and not afraid being searched. Although I'm just an aunt, I can't let people wrong me like this for no reason. The commotion here was a bit loud, and the servants and housekeeper in the villa naturally gathered around, but they didn't dare to get close. After hearing a rough outline from afar, they also developed some resentment towards the newly returned Miss. They heard that Miss was also raised in a wealthy family, and now she looks high and mighty, and looks down on them as nannies and servants. No one likes people who look down on them, so their impression of this Miss who just returned home is naturally not good. Jiang Yuqing naturally noticed the way the surrounding servants were looking at Xiuxiu. His face was taut as he stared at Guan Xiuxiu, about to stop this farce, but then he heard Guan Xiuxiu finally speak again, her voice calm and unhurried. When did I say she stole money? These words caused everyone present to be stunned. Jiang Su was the first to couldn't help but speak. You just said Aunt Wu stole money, and now you're denying it? Guan Xiuxiu glanced at him. I said she stole the Jiang family's fortune. The words stole money were said by that Lu Xueshi beside him. Whether it was to mislead others or an unintentional summary, it was clear that everyone had been led astray by her words. Stealing fortune and directly stealing money are two different things. At least, you can't find fortune by directly searching. It was with this reliance that she could be so unscrupulous in asking to be searched just now. Jiang Su, however, was confused and felt that she was quibbling. How can you steal fortune? Don't bring up these mysterious things. It sounds like nonsense. Jiang Huai heard this and glanced at him again, his eyes full of warning. Even if Xiuxiu was bluffing with her identity, what's wrong with bluffing? Moreover, perhaps it was Xiuxiu's attitude that was too calm and composed. Jiang Huai vaguely had a feeling that what Xiuxiu said was true. The wealthy circles more or less admired this kind of metaphysics and fortune-telling, and even the Jianghai group had several familiar feng shui masters. But his own sister is only 18 years old. How could she understand these things? Jiang Huai had doubts in his heart, but unlike others, he didn't think Guan Xiuxiu was talking nonsense. Guan Xiuxiu was too lazy to pay attention to the teenager who should be her cousin, and turned to look at Aunt Wu again, suddenly raising her finger and pointing to a certain spot. What did you bury over there? The direction she pointed was a flower bed in the corner of the garden, which was also the place Aunt Wu had subconsciously glanced at when she was working absent-mindedly. Aunt Wu was already uneasy, and when she saw the exact location Guan Xiuxiu was pointing to, her heart skipped a beat, and cold sweat almost dripped from her forehead. No, it can't be. She actually knows. How could this be? Jiang Yuqing saw Aunt Wu's reaction, and was already certain of something. He turned his head and gestured to the housekeeper beside him. Go! The housekeeper was already curious, and when he received the signal, he immediately walked quickly towards the direction Guan Xiuxiu was pointing. The others who were watching also followed the housekeeper's movements, and came to the flower bed. The others were curious, but Jiang Su completely disbelieved it, following along with an expression that said, let's see what you can come up with. Guan Xiuxiu pointed to the soil of a certain flower, and the housekeeper didn't say a word. He squatted down and used a small shovel to dig open the soil. As the housekeeper moved, Aunt Wu's face turned pale, and her legs went weak. But at this moment, everyone's attention was on the housekeeper, and no one noticed her expression. The flower soil in the flower bed is renewed regularly, so it was not difficult for the butler to dig. With just a few strokes, he dug a small pit. Immediately afterwards, it seemed like the shovel hit something, and his eyes lit up. I found it, the butler said, and the small shovel dug out a black plastic bag. The plastic was tightly wrapped. He reached out and unwrapped the outer plastic layer. At the moment it was unwrapped, the people around who were watching felt a stench emanating from a paper packet inside the plastic. The butler couldn't help but change his expression, suppressing the urge to be disgusted, and raised his hand to take the paper packet, but was suddenly stopped by Guan Xiuxiu who was standing beside him. Don't touch it. Everyone turned their heads and saw Guan Xiuxiu step forward, producing a yellow talisman from somewhere, and pasted the talisman on the paper packet. Whether it was everyone's illusion or not, they felt that the moment the talisman was pasted on the paper packet, The paper on the packet quickly became dark and aged. The butler glanced at Guan Xiushu again, and seeing her nod, he reached out and gently opened the paper packet through his gloves. Inside the paper was red, like the red paper used for writing birth dates and calculations in ordinary temples. And as the red paper unfolded, there were indeed several birth dates written on it, but the writing seemed to be written in blood. Now it was dry and black, and obviously still emitting a foul smell. In addition, there seemed to be a few strands of hair in the paper packet, as well as a talisman with strange symbols drawn on it. Such an evil thing, at first glance, was deliberately buried here. Combined with Guan Xiushu's words just now, everyone could guess what these things were used for. They just couldn't believe that such a thing could really steal wealth. Jiang was also in disbelief when he saw that something was really dug out. He turned his head and looked at Aunt Wu. Aunt Wu's lips trembled, with a look of grievance. It wasn't me who buried it. I really haven't seen these things. Young master, Miss Cousin, you have to believe me. Jiang opened his mouth, about to say something, but Guan Xiushu had already spoken lightly. Whether you buried it or not, it will be clear with a check of the surveillance cameras around the villa. She had already seen that the surveillance cameras around the Jiang family's villa covered almost every corner, and it wouldn't be difficult to find out the truth. The chi-stealing talisman must be written with the blood of a transfer person, which is you, and the hair that wraps it is from the Jiang family. It steals the Jiang family's wealth through the Jiang family's bloodline. Am I wrong? When Aunt Wu heard this, her whole body trembled, and she fell to the ground, pale as a ghost. Seeing her like this, everyone present could tell that she must have buried the paper packet. As for the hair, Aunt Wu had been working in the Jiang family for many years, and it was easy to get a strand or two of the Jiang family's hair. I just don't know whose hair the unlucky person's hair is. Even if she buried it, that doesn't mean she stole that wealth, maybe. Jiang was still being stubborn, but Jiang Huai's pair of peach blossom eyes had already swept over him coldly. Shut up, don't make me say it a second time.